Hi there, I'm Christina from Hair Romance, and I'm back today with Grant Withnall, who is the National Technical Educator for Schwarzkopf. And if you missed part one, I'm going to put a link around here, but we are answering your questions that you're too afraid to ask your hairdresser.
Well, we're trying to.
You were doing an amazing job. We had so many questions for Grant that we split this into 2 videos. And so we talked a lot about washing your hair and some product advice. Mm-hmm. And today is the questions, the awkward moments in the salon. I love this first question. All right.
Here we go. Wish me luck.
So the first question from Steph is, can my hairdresser tell if I've cheated on them? And I'm guessing Steph might have tried to trim her own hair.
Then definitely Steph. It's probably a pretty safe bet that they can. It depends on, I suppose, how big a change or how different you go or how good that other person is that you're going to get your hair done by.
Should you confess, or doesn't really, you can get away with it?
It's none of their business. Really. It's your hair. I wouldn't. I'd just go, oh, I did a bit of a dodgy job last time. But I don't know. No, I don't. I think you can if it's a big change, but if it's just a little trim or anything like that, unless you know you've done the disaster cutting your fringe off like that, then they can probably tell that.
Yeah.
But generally, no.
Okay, good.
So.
I think we're overthinking it.
Yeah.
I always do.
Yeah.
And I think so. An overthinker like me, probably Sascha, says, how do you feel when a loyal client cheats on you? And then how is it okay if you come back?
First of all, on that one, okay, it's your hair. You want to go somewhere else, go right ahead. Is it okay for you to come back? Absolutely.
I think you'd be happy to have them back. You'd be like, my work's good, you want to come back.
You got to remember, they've got to like you too. What if they don't like you and you're coming back? There's a whole nother story we can go into. But yeah, it's fine to go back. It's not a problem at all.
Have you ever had clients sort of leave for a while now and then come back, or do people notice?
No.
You're just kind of busy in the salon every day, aren't you? Yeah.
You kind of think, oh, I haven't seen that person for a while, and then suddenly they're there, and you don't realise that it's only 6 months has passed. You don't know. And people move. We live in a society where we're always changing things. We're moving interstate, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine. And if you go away, I've had people who've moved interstate or overseas and then come back 6 months later or whatever, and it's always great to see them. I haven't seen you for ages. I'm not one of those people who thinks, oh, where have you been? In the end, it's your hair, it's your choice. Go where you like.
Good. I love that. Thank you, Grant. Okay. Now, Sarah's on the other side. She says, what's the best way to break up with your hairdresser? She confesses, I ghosted a hairdresser once, but I felt guilty. Should I tell them I'm not coming back, or is it better to not to say anything at all?
Me personally, I think it's better just move on. Really, just move on. You may be doing them a favour as well. Just think of it this way: it is a two-way street. So they may be thinking, "Oh, I wish this person wouldn't come back," and you suddenly disappear, and they might be happy about it. I mean, I'm not saying that's the case, but it is a two-way street. So, I think if you're not happy with the salon you're going to or the hairdresser you're going to, go and find somebody else. It's absolutely fine. It's not a problem at all. It always feels like such a high pressure situation.
I know. And it's so personal, I think, sometimes.
And I know, and I think people would be really surprised. A lot of hairdressers, they're quite aware of it, and it doesn't really bother them. People move on. Things change. A style changes, and you find somebody who you think does that better for you. So that's fine.
Good.
Not a problem. Don't beat yourselves up over this stuff.
You're not sitting there thinking about it.
No, I never did. I wonder if maybe some people do. I don't know. But I don't think it's worth worrying about. I think you're all stressing yourselves too much over it.
Me overthink? That would never happen. It's my life.
I never think. I avoid it at all costs if I can.
Now, when you're actually in the chair, this is a great question from Maddie. She says, do you like it when we bring in photos, or is that annoying?
Okay, so for me personally, I love it when people bring in photos. I actually think it's a really good, because some people aren't very good at describing what they want.
You cannot describe colour. Like I might say I want caramel highlights.
Yeah.
And
what's your idea of caramel?
Yeah.
I always think it's a great thing, both for colour and for styles. I think it's a helpful guide. The thing is, and this is the other side to it, is you have to be realistic about what your hair can do.
Yeah.
So if you're going to a good hairdresser, they're going to be the person who say, look, we can kind of do a variation on this, but we can't get it exactly the same because your hair is different.
And you should, that's the whole point, that you get it customized to suit your hair.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so if you find a look, a color or a style that you like in a magazine, bring it in and say, this is the kind of direction I want to go in. And you'll find that any good stylist or color person will actually go, okay, with the confines of what your hair is capable of doing, this is where we could possibly take it.
I've also found this little trick. I don't know if you do this as well. I call it the thumb trick. When you find a photo, and always, particularly with celebrity photos, Find a photo you really like, and you put your thumb over their face.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you really like the person, and so you think their hair looks great.
Yeah.
But when you take their face out of it, the haircut's really plain, and you may not like, and you get exactly the same haircut, and you're like, I don't look the same because it's just a very straight bob, and you think it looks different. But when you put your thumb over the face,
you're just seeing the silhouette of the shape.
Yeah, and it's like it's very hard to take away and see a photo for what it actually is.
But I also think the colour thing is also an interesting one as well, because you can see a colour on somebody that you think looks really, really good, and you think, I want to have that colour, and then you go to the salon, and if they're a really good salon, they will turn around and say, look, that colour's not for you. And the reason is they're considering your skin tone, the kind of clothes, the colour of the clothes that you wear, the kind of makeup you wear. And so many times we forget that. So, you know, an example would be if you look at Gwen Stefani, for example, with that bleached blonde hair, which is so well done. It is really, it suits her. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's really good. Yet, if you've got an olive skin tone, that is going to look so bad on you. So always consider that, and hairdressers are not telling you that no, you can't have that. They're just saying we need to adapt that. So just be realistic. That's what I'm saying about your expectation. But I always loved it when people brought photos, because I could think, okay, now I see what you're trying to tell me. And
then I always think it's you to listen, because the hairdresser's trying to tell you that that's not going to work, and you have to listen.
Exactly. And in the end, if you want to do it and they tell you, well, it's not going to work this way or that way, if they do it for you and you're not happy with it, you have to wear that. So maybe listen.
I love that. Now, this is an interesting question that's next from Shelley.
All right.
She says, can you tell the difference between dandruff and psoriasis? And do you get creeped out by having to touch or wash it? Oh, I think that's a really sweet question.
The difference is quite easy to understand. Dandruff is, actually a lot of people think they have dandruff and they don't. They've just got a dry scalp. And dandruff and psoriasis look very different from each other, and they're very, very easy to work out the difference between the two. Does it gross anyone out? I wouldn't think so. It certainly doesn't gross me out.
I wouldn't worry. No. The hairdresser's are there to help look after you, make you feel good.
No, it's also like people who they've got like little bumps or little moles or something on their scalp. You're worried about it more than the hairdresser is. Honestly, don't worry about it. Everyone's got bumps on them. Everybody's got little things they don't like. Don't worry about it.
What's the difference between a dry scalp and dandruff? How can you tell the
dry
difference?
Scalp is pretty easy because it just flakes onto you. Dandruff is usually connected, so it's actually still attached. In severe cases, it can be quite sore and red looking. That's probably the easiest way to tell. But if you've just got a dry scalp, it's just flaking onto your scalp. You're better off using, rather than anti-dandruff, you're better off using something like a scalp treatment of some kind, or a serum of some kind on your scalp. Not a hair serum, but more a scalp treatment. But psoriasis, obviously with psoriasis, is another thing that's, you're better off going to your dermatologist. And obviously for people who have psoriasis, you'll know quite often particular products can inflame that as well. So from a hairdresser's perspective, they would not recommend products for someone who's got quite significant psoriasis, because they're better off listening to their dermatologist or their doctor rather than the hairdresser.
And ask your hairdresser. They'll be able to tell you who to go and see and refer you on.
Absolutely. But as far as it grossing people, no, don't worry about it. Yeah, don't worry about it.
We worry about it. I worry about it.
I know, people do worry about strange things like that. Don't worry about it.
You're making me feel a lot more relaxed.
Oh, good.
This is good. This is helping me.
I'm a therapist.
Hairdressers are.
I know you were saying that earlier. You do not want me as your therapist, people. I'm telling you right now.
Go see a dermatologist, a therapist, and then get your hair done separately.
Completely separate.
All right, now our next question's from Lauren.
Okay.
And she asks, what's the biggest hair colour mistake that you see?
Oh, that's so easy. The biggest mistake that people make colouring their hair is they put colour on top of colour. And colour on top of colour will always go darker. It does not matter what brand or what colour. If you are colouring your hair at home and you already have an existing colour on your hair, read the instructions, which give you the idea of how to do the regrowth application. Because what you want to do is do the roots for 20-25 minutes and just take it through the ends for the last 5, and it will look all the same. If you put that colour all over, it's going to go at least 2 shades darker than you want it to be.
Wow.
And it's the easiest thing to have not had happen, and it's the hardest thing to fix.
Right.
Number 1, colour on top of colour always goes darker.
I've always had that voice in my head when I hear that now. I'm like, It's drummed into me. Yeah.
Everyone that I work with in this entire building knows that one. It's
and I always think as well that the darker the colour, sometimes you think it's going to be more natural, but it's unless you're going for a very specific contrasty look, I always think it can be quite harsh and
going quite extreme in colour, like going very dark or very light, is going to age you more than if you stay closer to what your natural shade is. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but if you're going to go to a really darker shade and you're, my colour, and you want to go really dark brown, you'd probably have to change your makeup. If you're quite dark and you go really blonde, you're going to have to change your makeup and probably the colour of clothes that you're wearing as well.
Difference,
which is fine if you're prepared to do it, but if you're not prepared to put in the time, it's going to look really bad really quickly. So always consider the upkeep of what you're going to have to do, which is again why ombre and balayage is so popular, because you can do it and you can live with it for so long without having to redo it. So
perfect.
That's why they're popular.
All right, and now then the same thing, a similar question that came asked a few times is, are we using the products correctly? Like, how do we know if we're using it correctly?
Okay, the number one rule of everything, it doesn't matter what the product is, whether it's a colour, care, styling product, it doesn't matter what the product is read the instructions.
Something I'm
I so can't emphasise this enough, particularly with colour. All right, just because you've coloured your hair before, I'd still read the instructions. Everything's different. With styling products, read the instructions on the back. With care, read the instructions on the front or the back. If you don't know what the product is, then read what it's telling you to do. Brand managers spend a lot of time working out how to explain to a consumer how to use this product. So if you're not getting a recommendation from a hairdresser, you're going to the supermarket or to, Priceline or somewhere like that to purchase your product, then you may have to make that decision on your own. So read what they're telling you, because obviously they want you to use the product the best way possible. And for your benefit, you don't want to spend all that time or money just because you haven't bothered reading the instructions, and then you finish doing your hair and you go, oh, that's terrible. So read the instructions on everything and follow them, please.
That's me. I start reading and then I drift off somewhere. I get a little bit distracted. I'm like, I half read that. It's like when I try and cook a recipe, I'm like, forget a little bit in the middle. Yeah.
No, see, I'm a person who, maybe that's just me, I have to read everything, particularly if it's something I have never used before. I will read it cover to cover until I know what it is before I'm going to use it, because I just think...
There's me just jumping in and popping my hair.
Maybe I'm just a bit obsessive compulsive about that.
Well, maybe that's better. Yeah. There's less mistakes that way.
That's true. And also what's coming up as well.
It's true.
So, and also the thing is, what I find is if people don't bother to read what's on the packaging or whatever, they'll use it and they go, I didn't like that product. And then we've all got a cupboard in our bathroom where it's crammed of products up the back that we haven't used for 300 years because we used it once. We didn't read the instructions and we didn't like it.
So we should go back
and revisit
and retry them.
Because you'll probably think, oh, that's what I did. And you'll think, actually, that's quite a nice product.
Because I think that with the volume powder, which I'm always,
my all-time favourite. Yeah.
And people use too much.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, it's horrible. It makes
my hair feel like that. Yeah.
I'm like, no, you need the teeniest amount. And then if you need a bit more, you add a little bit more, just like salt.
It's just a tiny... I find with powder, the best way to use it is to actually, I just basically upend it and just tap it, so just a little bit comes out. And honestly, you don't need a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's in a little
teeny
tub.
Tiny, And you think, what's that? And I'm like, it lasts so long because you just use a little amount.
While I'm thinking about it, it's the same with oils and serums. They're in little bottles with little pumps for a reason.
Yeah, don't do 8 pumps.
No, this is not acceptable.
And then right from the start
start here. Oil slick at the front, and dry fuzzy ends at the back.
That's a good tip. And so any serums always apply first, and then any little bit of the product you can smooth over the top.
The trick I have found though, if you do use too much oil or too much serum, styling powder will mat it down. Because dry shampoo doesn't do it, but styling powder will. So if you've used too much oil or serum on your hair, and it's usually when you finish styling your hair, so you haven't got time to fix it.
You're just damn it, I spent half an hour doing that. And
exactly.
I just ruined it.
If you put powder on your hand, just a small amount of powder on your hand, and just pat it down like that and just pat it on, it takes away that oil.
Love this.
It's great. It's the only thing I found that works, and it works really, really well.
Because I've done that. I've done too much serum.
I'm sure we all have done that.
And there's nothing you can do to hide it. No. But now I'm going to try that.
It's a great trick, and I found it by mistake when I was at a shoot because I did exactly what I'm telling you not to do, and I did it at the front And I just thought, oh no, 4 hours of doing hair, what am I going to do with this? And I knew that dry shampoo hadn't worked, so I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose, so I tried the styling powder. And you're like, swear by it now. Works every time.
Perfect. Grant, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I feel more relaxed, and I've just learnt some new tips to save a bad hair day with too much serum.
Absolutely. And enjoy going to the hairdresser. Enjoy the massage.
Yes.
If they don't give you a good massage, actually go to another salon.
That's a good...
That's the best part of the whole experience.
That's a good reason to cheat and go to a place.
Absolutely. Just blame the junior, then massage the hair.
Thank you so much,
You're
Grant.
welcome.
And thanks for watching. You can follow me on Instagram at Hairomance and follow at Schwarzkopf AU as well for lots of hair inspo. And make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss my next video. And if you haven't already, I'm going to put a link so you can watch part 1 of the rest of our chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.